Alright, so I covered these first three X-Men films, the X-Men trilogy, already. So we're going to pick up with the next movie. Now, I already did X-Men Origins Wolverine. As far as I'm concerned, that would have been the next movie in the series. I already did up front. That movie does not fit in the continuity of the other films that we're going to discuss, so it's an outlier. You don't have to watch that movie. It's probably better off if you don't, because it'll just confuse you, because it does not mesh with anything else. So up next, in 2011, we had X-Men First Class. And this movie stars James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. So McAvoy plays Professor Xavier, Professor X, and Fassbender, of course, is Magneto. This is a prequel to the original, to the X-Men trilogy I just discussed, and it takes place in the 1960s. I think it's 1963. It's kind of got a James Bond feel to it, so if you like James Bond films, you may actually like this one. It's rare that you get casting that's pretty much perfect. I mean, they nailed it with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in the original, X-Men trilogy, and I think that McAvoy and Fassbender here they're just as good. I really like this movie quite a bit. Now, I don't like it as much as X2, but this is way up there. I give this one a 4 out of 5. Really good movie. It's got a lot of emotional depth to it, and Kevin Bacon is the bad guy in this one. All right, up next we have another Wolverine film with Hugh Jackman. This one's kind of an apology for X-Men Origins Wolverine. This one's just titled The Wolverine. Okay, and this actually serves as a direct sequel to X-Men, the last X-Men film in the series, The Last Stand. Okay, so everybody was mad about this movie. This is a sequel to that. And Wolverine is dealing with the aftermath of everything that happened in that film. With the death of Jean Grey, he's actually haunted by her ghost. Now, if we're going to draw back to the Arthurian parallels here, we have in the Arthurian stories, Sir Lancelot went crazy and ended up wandering in the wilderness. And kind of like the same thing is going on with Wolverine. He's seen visions of Jean Grey, so essentially he's going nuts. And we see him, he's living like a mountain man, kind of out in the wilderness with a grizzly bear at the beginning, and then he ends up going on a quest to a distant land. He ends up in Japan, fighting Yakuza and ninjas. So I really like this movie quite a bit. The third act of this film is a little weak in my opinion. It kind of drags the overall movie down, but the first 2/3 of the film are a really good character study, and there is an incredible action sequence where Wolverine is fighting on a bullet train. The kicker to this film is that Wolverine loses his ability to heal. His mutant healing factor is stolen from him, and so he's vulnerable. We get to see him kind of at his lowest point. He's getting stabbed and shot, and he's not healing. He's like, whoa, what's going on? And he has to deal with the limitations of being, human, essentially. So there's a post-credit sequence at the end of this film, which actually there was a post-credit sequence at the end of X-Men Last Stand where we learned that Xavier's consciousness has been transferred into somebody that was brain dead at the end of this movie. Well, at the post-credit sequence of this film, okay, we get, spoiler alert, I mean the movie's really, how old is this film? This film's 20 years old now, so spoiler alert, Professor X and Magneto show up at the end of this and tell Wolverine that they need his help. and it's all setting up for X-Men Days of Future Past. Oh, by the way, my rating for this, 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 on the Wolverine. This set of movies right here I really like. I think they're pretty good. So we get Days of Future Past. Now this movie's kind of unique because it takes the cast from the original X-Men trilogy. Okay, so you've got Patrick Stewart. I mean, Halle Berry is back as Storm. You've got Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. And then you've got the new cast, okay, from the prequels. And this is a timey-wimey, like, time travel type thing. So we get at the end of the Wolverine, okay, Patrick Stewart's Xavier and Ian McKellen's Magneto show up. They tell Wolverine they need his help. And so Wolverine is kind of the, what do you want to say, the glue that ties the current timeline, the apocalyptic Terminator-esque timeline, to 1973. So this Wolverine's consciousness is transferred back in time into his younger self, and we get like kind of a crossover between the two casts. And I'm going to tell you right now, this movie's a 5 out of 5 for me. Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy are great, but we also get Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. Like, what more could you want? I think this movie is really awesome. Now, this particular version is called the Rogue Cut because the theatrical cut did not have Rogue in it. This version does. This version is 17 minutes longer, and it has an action sequence that wasn't in the theatrical cut, in which Patrick Stewart's Xavier and Ian McKellen's Magneto have to go on a mission to the old X Mansion to rescue Rogue. In case you haven't seen it, I won't spoil to you what happens, but this set of movies right here together, okay, has a very satisfying ending. And I don't want to spoil the ending of this for you because it resets the X-Men timeline. All right, it fixes it. What it does is it resets. People hated this movie, okay? This movie undoes this movie. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to tell you what happened, but it resets everything. So these 6 films, by the way, I don't own this. This is a library copy, but I'm going to have to add this to my collection because I really like it. These films together form a trilogy, or form a series that has one complete story arc, and they should have left it here. They shouldn't have made any more after this. So you want to watch, you got to watch these in order, because if you don't, it's going to screw everything up. So X-Men, X-Men 2, then X-Men The Last Stand, all right? Then you want to watch X-Men First Class, then The Wolverine, and then Days of Future Past. And that's where they should have left the series. They shouldn't have made any more movies. The movie Logan doesn't really tie into any of these. It's kind of a standalone in its own thing, in its own continuity. But the 2 movies that they made that do tie to this, I'll talk about next time. X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Dark Phoenix. And wow. Yeah. I mean, how do you go from like a 5-star film to that? They had the perfect ending. They should have just left it alone. I mean, we'll talk about that next time. Anyways, trying to get these knocked out. So, God bless. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.